Hey, this is Al, and I am in Mountain View, California, and I brought some friends with me. We're here at Coursera, and we wanted to start by thanking the folks at Coursera for helping us get set up and for allowing us, and also a bunch of ModPo people to come in. It's really great to be here. Hey, Chris Martin, who is it that helped us? This gentleman right here, straight back. I just didn't catch your name.
Oh, I'm Sean.
Sean, Zach, turn the camera back on Sean. That's Sean. Can we give Sean some snaps? Sean really helped us. But also, I have to point out from the start that Zach Gardner, who's not going to be seen because he is managing one of the cameras, and he's also a little shy about this. You want to stick your head in front of the camera, Zach? He's got some plan. Oh, his hand. Anyway, so that's Zach and Chris Martin. Can you get Chris behind a pillar? There he is. There's Chris. So, and also Lily Applebaum, who's sitting to my left. The three of them and I traveled from Philadelphia to California to be here, and I'm just so grateful to my colleagues for doing that. I get snaps. It's hard work coming in the middle of your working life to just take 5 days and come out and hang out. Did you go to Yosemite with those guys?
I did not.
Oh, they went.
It looks like fun there.
And to my right and your left is Jake Marmer, who's a completely marvelous artist and teacher. And I got to know him through his remarkable performance poetry. But now I get to know him as a teacher. And so he is teaching a course at Kahila, that's the name of the school, in Palo Alto. And one of his students, Eves, is here. Yeah, and I don't know if we're getting a camera on her, but no. But Jake and Lily and Eves and I and Zach and Chris will be going into their classroom tomorrow morning at 9:30, and we're going to be recording a session, a close reading with the students. And Jake, in a word or two, how's it been teaching ModPo to these students? I mean, are they freaking out?
Not yet. Although this Stein week would be a good time to freak out. But I think the poems are opening themselves up, and as they should. Good poetry does.
Yeah, Stein is tough, but we're excited about it. And then on Saturday, a lot of the people who are here, ModPo people who've joined us, will also be joining us in San Francisco at 6 p.m. California time. I know Bob will be there, and I think Kelly signed up for both, and maybe some others, maybe Jenny. Yeah. So we'll join you again at the Center for the Book in San Francisco at 6 p.m., and that will not be a live event. But this is a live event, and it's interactive, and you can contact us in many ways. You can go to the Facebook Live stream, and you can participate in the comment stream, which automatically updates. That's Facebook. You can even see when a friend is typing a comment, it says. That's you. You can also go to Twitter, and you can tweet using the hashtag ModPo Live, and we will be following that conversation. And you can also, inside the ModPo site itself, in the Coursera site for ModPo, you can go to the subforum, and there's a thread that's called "Here is where to post questions and comments during the Thursday meetings." Okay, and also you can call us. You can call us, and the number for this webcast only is 215-839-6616. And for those of you at home, which is anyone who can call, I suppose our live guests can call us, but that would be ironic and weird. It's on your screen, 215-839-6616, and that phone number will only work during this webcast. So give us a call and we'll talk to you. I have a couple of shout outs to start, and then we can get right to questions. And Jenny Lancaster has a portable mic, so thank you, Jenny. And so we'll put some people on the spot here in the room, and unless you have questions, and then we'll take some phone calls, and we'll look at the Twitter feed. And is the Twitter feed starting to happen?
It is, yep. We've got some live tweeters.
Good.
There's a little bit of an audio issue, which Zach and Chris are working on it, so
Okay.
we should just know that.
Is there an audio delay?
I think it's buzzing a little bit for some people.
Okay.
That's what I'm seeing.
All right. And Erica is nodding that it's buzzing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Erica, can you actually decipher what we're saying, or is it just hard? You can. Okay, good. So I want to introduce 5 ModPo TAs who are joining us. For those of you in the room, you have to look at the big screen. I guess there's one there, and there might be one there. I'm not sure. Is there?
Yes,
Good.
yes, okay.
Way up there. So TAs, you can be seen by lots of people. So we have Allie Castleman, who is in New York. Allie, will you unmute and say hello? No sound on Allie?
Try one more time.
Okay, Allie, try one more time.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you
Yeah.
perfectly. Yay, Allie. And we have Amaris Kachansky, who's in Massachusetts, way near the water. And there's no hurricane coming near you, is that right?
Thankfully, no.
Oh, great. Hi, Amaris. And we have Anna Strong, who is usually with us in the room, but alas, we couldn't take her with us. Why? Oh, she's sad. Anna, why couldn't you come? I forgot. You have to teach.
It's a super long story, but I'm really salty about it.
You're salty about it? Wow.
Yeah.
Look at Anna. Hi, Anna. And then we have Dave Poplar. Dave, can you hear me?
Good evening. Yes, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Great. So is that call coming to you, Zach? Is that what we're going to hear when... We don't know what that is. Okay, this is cool. Don't you love, like it's 2016, and there's something happening technologically, and we're just poetry people, and we don't know what it is. So we'll just move right along. Dave Poplar, I have something to tell you.
Lay it on me.
Okay, the students in Jake's class, they like you. And they were very disappointed that you didn't make the trip west.
Next time.
Eve is one of the students in the class. Yeah. And so you can't really see her. She's in the first row, Dave. There she is. She's waving at you. Okay.
It was a peace sign, but...
All right. So why do they like Dave? Because he's so irreverent?
I think, okay, number one, very quiet, so like whenever you like ask him to talk, he goes like super deep, and he has like these really interesting points to make. I think also, I'm gonna be like full honesty here, we're having trouble keeping track of the TAs, so every class is like, I like the TA with the long, short hair, but there's only one TA who looks like Dave. So Dave has like the signature like style of talking and like the specific points and also the look, and it's amazing. Good job.
Dave, do you want to comment? Thank you, please.
I'm flattered. I'm happy to stand out any way I can.
That's great. Thank you both. And then Erica Kaufman, who is up at Bard College. Are you upstate?
I am upstate. Hi, everyone. Hi, Al.
The leaves are turning. I just saw some pictures today, right? They're just starting to turn.
Yeah, there's turn.
The Hudson Valley is so fantastic. Okay, so let's get started. I want to do some shout outs. Again, the number is 215-839-6616. 3 shout outs before we get started. Chloe Klisterman lives in Brisbane, Australia. I'm sure that's not how to pronounce Brisbane. Brisbane. She's been part of ModPo for years. As are Oscar and Theta, who are here today, 5 years. And Christine, 5 years of ModPo, and they're still doing it, and we're in the middle of Coursera, and it's the Coursera folks who have been very tolerant, super tolerant of ModPo's idea of just accumulating a community. Like there's Clara. I don't know if we can get a camera on Clara, Zach, because you're working on audio, but Clara's in the back, and she is like one of the people who really, really stuck with us. And when she asked me, how's it going, how's the course going, she kind of winces because I might actually give her like a detailed answer. But Clara, we love you very much. I mean, you've been so supportive of us. Thank you. Anyway, Chloe's been with us for 5 years or 4 years. And suddenly this year she's found the time to do it all. And in one of her posts, she talks about the explosion of books around her house as the result of ModPo, which can we just stop, close up, and just finish this massive open online course? Just say we're done because a participant is buying books. and presumably they're poetry books. And she seems to be in a very happy state with all these new poets around her. And she's typical, I think, of a lot of ModPo people who stay with us, and that's the goal. So I just want to plug ModPo Plus, the Teacher Resource Center, TRC, and the CCCR as places where if you're in your 4th or 5th year, you can go and get new stuff. I just added 3 new videos today, for instance, to ModPo Plus. The second shout out is to Carolyn Soroka. Carolyn is 7 months pregnant, and she is deep into the baby naming process. She's also a linguistic psychologist, which makes the baby name process really fraught. As a lover of language and someone who recognizes the power of words, she writes, I have been somewhat distressed through the process of the baby naming. So that she and her husband have been thinking about Bruce.
Cut up a book of baby
Bruce! Anne is suggesting, wow, you're getting very experimental and avant-garde on us. Dada has gotten you. Okay, but anyway, they're thinking about Bruce, but then she goes into this whole paragraph about the connotations of Bruce. Right, Lily? Does Bruce have connotations? So, well, okay, so we won't go too far into it. But this week, during Stein, in separating the name from the thing itself.
Nice segue.
In separating the name from the thing itself, Stein has liberated me, says Carolyn Soroka, 7 months pregnant and a linguistic psychologist. From the depths of my overthinking, I have been delivered.
And
Especially this, quoting Stein, things once they are named does not go on doing anything to them. The history of the name will not drag this future Bruce of mine into a specific identity. The thing is more than a name. The diversity of connotations with this one name kind of proves that. Yeah, Carolyn. I was hoping you would name the baby Al. But Bruce is okay. And finally, the third and last shout out to Christine Moran, who is a telescope operator and astrophysicist living in Antarctica at the South Pole while she takes ModPo. And I imagine she has a lot of free time. When does the sun set these days down there? It doesn't, does it? Nobody knows. These are all poetry people. Hey, you Coursera staff, when does the sun...
colors.
It's winter, so there's no light. I bet there's a lot of down... How could she be... No, the telescope all the time. Anyway, she's got free time and she's in ModPo, and we're really glad that she's there. Okay. All right, good. So, Jenny, I want you to bring the microphone to, let's say, to Kelly. I'm so sorry, Kelly. All right.
Hi.
And Kelly, while you're holding the mic, I'm going to ask Lily to read some of the tweets.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm going to ask Kelly to freely react to any of the tweets that you hear from Lily, okay? Does that sound cool?
I have a good one. I think this one could be a good topic for us to take generally. Okay, so Kathy McCabe D at Kathy Blogs says, is Stein a poet's poet only rather than a people's poet?
Such a good question.
And I think that's a good question to start us off
there.
with. Yeah.
Kelly, first of all, freely admit, this is your second year in ModPo?
My first year.
Okay. Did you have time this past week to do some Stein?
I read some Stein, yeah.
Okay, good. So what about charges of elitism and accusations of insularity and coterie? You know what a coterie is?
I don't know what a coterie is.
A coterie is like an in-group, a club, essentially. And coterie poets, poetry is sort of famous for having coteries. Like the closest thing we come to imagists were kind of a coterie for about 10 minutes. I think the language poets at chapter 9.1 were a coterie for about 15 years. No harm meant to them, but they sort of they were a coterie group. So do you think Stein is a poet's poet, or does she appeal to the people? I mean, we just heard about the pregnant woman who's
I don't think those two concepts are necessarily mutually exclusive. I think the way she writes, or at least for me, I'm learning poetry for the first time, and it seems like there are so many interpretations and so many routes that you can go with her poetry that it feels like the point is to appeal to the people, is so that people can freely, I guess, take whatever they want out of it. But then I think she's also making a statement on how the form of poetry and how these connotations of words come together. And I think in that sense, she's kind of making commentary on poetry itself, and that will make her a poet, poetry's poet, poet's poet.
Yes, good point. So both really. Fantastic, thank you. Can we give snaps to Kelly, who just nailed it? Can you give the mic to Gowrie, who's next to you? And while that's happening, I'm going to ask Jake and Erica and Dave. Will you each comment on this question? And I know that I'm going to guess that Erica and Jake both, and I know Erica certainly had this experience, teaching Stein to middle school kids and high school kids and teachers who teach high school kids, Erica. It's a special challenge, and yet I think it's something that needs to be done. So Jake, then Erica, then Dave. Jake, thoughts on this?
Yeah, sure. So I think Stein, much like other poets of the time, was trying to restart something. So given that she's trying to, maybe wipe the slate clean, and this is also true.
New.
Yeah, make it new, make it brand new. And Zara obviously also was trying to.
Well, wait a minute. Zara's trying to rearrange and not make it new. He's using old materials.
Well, I think he's trying to reinvent poetry. The poetry was not doable anymore the way that it was after World War I. That was Zara's agenda, I think. So given the state of reset,
Yeah.
I think she could be accessed by people who are just coming in. At the same time, it is very difficult and elitist, and the more context you know, the more you appreciate it.
Okay, cool. Erica, your thoughts on this? We're sort of leading to observations about teaching Stein. That's okay.
The thing that I think attracts me to
So, Eric.
my favorite week in ModPo probably is that she just feels so familiar to me. Like, I feel like her idea of the continuous present makes reading her work feel incredibly relevant and visceral. And this summer I had the great privilege to get asked to teach Stein to lots and lots of different kinds of students of different ages, and to work with them. We were reading Composition as Explanation, and If I Told Him, both of which are in ModPo. I think the essay, there's only a small excerpt, but
right. The composition is the thing seen by everyone living in the living they are doing. They are the composing of the composition that at the time they are living is the composition of the time in which they are living. That's just brilliant.
It is totally brilliant, and it makes complete sense.
It makes complete sense, exactly. That's what's so frightening about it. So, Gowrie, this is after Dave Poplar speaks. This will be your challenge because you don't have the text in front of you. Try to explain as best you can what Stein is saying there. The composition, your eyes just got wide. The composition is the thing seen by everyone living in the living they are doing. They are the composing of the the people, are the composing of the composition that at the time they are living is the composition of the time in which they are living. Whoa. Dave Poplar, Gowrie's thinking about what to say, so do you have something to say before that?
That whole quote, that just makes me think how Stein is just saying that words aren't things. Words are just words. They're just words. They only have whatever meaning we give them. And she's basically shaking the Etch-a-Sketch on them. The analogy I always come back to is looking at a stop sign, because I can't see it as anything but a stop sign, but it's really just squiggly lines. It's a squiggly line, and then it's a perpendicular line and a circle, and I can't see it like those squiggly lines anymore. But what she's trying to do is to bring us back to be able to look at it just as what it is, because it's just a word. Whatever meaning it has is meaning that we just give it. she's just pointing that out. And I think that's just it's like pulling the rug out from under you where you've been firmly standing, and I like that feeling.
You've used such a dangerous analogy. The one act of signification you picked was the stop sign, which saves people's lives when they know how to read it. So therefore, this kind of deconnotation, undoing of connotation and of social construction of meaning has some dangerous elements to it. But
Also slows people down, too. That
slows people down, yeah. Exactly. Gowrie, we still don't know what that noise is. I'll just say that the number is 215-839-6616, and we hope you'll call. Gowrie, do you have any way of making sense of that?
Composition is the living, and living is...
Yeah, the composition is the thing seen by everyone living. What do you think she means by composition?
What we make of our lives.
Okay, that's one thing for sure. Yeah, that's very cool. I think she means to say connotation of composition in English.
Composing something, making something.
Yeah, making something. And we also say specifically that a piece of writing or a piece of music and also photography, when you put things in the frame of the picture, that's a composition. That's really what she means. Yeah. So the composition is the thing seen by everyone living in the living they are doing. That's that continuous present. Can you do anything with that? That was you, yeah?
Yeah, that was me, my echo. I think what she's trying to say maybe is as we're living our lives, we are infusing it with meaning, and it varies from person to person, so the living experience or the lived experience is different.
Okay, and when you're writing that experience, what happens?
That turns into something else?
So the old way, the pre-modern way of composing would be to take a life and make a narrative of it, such as a 19th century novel, a Charles Dickens novel, right? To make a narrative of it and to create an arc of narration and to produce something that has a beginning and a middle and an end, right? Stein is saying something very different. She's saying that the composing is the living that they are doing, and that the composing of the composition at the time they are living is the essentially a record of the time. It's the composition of the time in which they are living. So it's a circular, continuous present. And I'm getting enough nods out there of people who are making sense of that. Now, that sounds like it makes a lot of sense, except actually doing it is hard. Why is that? Why is it hard to do this, to write in a continuous present? Gowrie, you want to take a shot at that? Why is it hard to do it? I mean, in a practical sense.
Maybe as you're living something, it's hard to take a step back and write about it?
Yeah, exactly. Has anybody ever read a novel by Samuel Richardson called Pamela? No one reads Pamela. You've read it. Lily, what happens in how is the book written?
It's written as Pamela's diary.
It's letters.
And it's, right. So like she's writing home, explaining her experiences working for Mr. B. And so the maybe famous scene in the novel is she's hiding from him in a closet and she's writing in her letter oh no, he's coming in the room. I hear him. He's outside.
My
oh
pencil
my gosh.
Is making noises.
Right, and he can hear
I'm writing.
me. Oh no, he's opened the door. I've got to run out, and it's it's comical now to think about it because clearly that's not what could possibly literally happen. She wasn't, as she's running away from this sort of lecherous man, writing a letter with a quill and a pen, whatever, and ink. So that's but it's an attempt to capture the excitement of what if you were a fly on the wall in that room, really watching what was happening.
Thank you, Lily. That was a totally experimental moment in the development of the novel as a genre. And guess which mode survived? Not that mode. That mode got shut out immediately, and Richardson is thought of as a weird experimental byproduct. What really came along is the writing in past tense with an omniscient view of things that happened to people that usually worked out really well, like the poor son turned out to be an aristocrat and got all the money anyway, and is really the son of the great father that we'd always right? So the novel really imposes social status, the status quo, social status quo, on its characters using this narrative imposition. Stein is going back to this Richardsonian idea of the composition is the thing seen by everyone living in the living they are doing. That's really radical. And we know Stein didn't actually write like that, but she certainly wanted to write as if the composing she's doing is the subject matter. Yeah, that's crazy cool. We have someone on the phone.
We have Grass calling.
We have Chris calling. So, yeah, Grass. So, are you able to bring him up?
Yeah.
You really know how to do this, huh? This is our first call here in California. We're very excited. Chris, can you hear me? Hello, Chris? Someone's coughing. I think it's Chris. Chris, can you hear me? No, that's someone back there. All right.
They're composing.
You'll check in with them. Okay, good. Great. So let us go to the tweets again,
Okay,
Lily.
sure.
And you're following Facebook.
Yeah.
Why don't we turn to the two of you for some comments, and then we'll open it up for
So far,
discussion.
Facebook is really focused on the volume. But,
Lee Sandals says, writing in the continuous present, you have no beginning or middle or end except visual and spatial field or meadow of the page. So I
That's
like
cool.
that.
Yeah.
Let's see. A lot of people talking about when they had to read Pamela in school. Sorry, if that's what.
It's a long book.
Yeah.
Nobody here has read it except for Lily. And me.
That's true. In great epistolary fiction class. Let's see. Just a lot of live tweeting. Sophie says, I am totally lost reading Stein. I'm sure that she's not alone this week. Kathy McCabe D, who asked our initial question, follows up and says, I kind of think she, meaning Stein, is a poet's poet. After you read her, you are a poet. I like that.
One more?
Joy Rothko says that ModPo is the world's largest coterie.
Oh, that busts up what a coterie is.
Yeah.
A massive open online coterie. Free, non-credit, worldwide, and South Pole. Jake, what's happening in the Facebook stream, comment stream?
Nothing so far.
Okay, well, I'm going to read some from the sub-forums, and then we'll pick up one of those topics.
Cool.
Wait, says Juan Pablo Lasso from South America. Who's in Antarctica? How awesome. Is this the neutrino lab? And then somebody explains. Julie Naslund reminds us that in Antarctica it's early spring. Daylight is expanding. Good. And the rest is about audio levels. And hello from Toronto. Good. All right.
Well, it's a good time to say that if you're watching the webcast and you have a question, you can find us on Twitter at #ModPo Live, or you can post a comment on the Facebook live stream, and that's where we're looking to take questions in addition to the discussion forum, specifically for today's webcast.
All right, and I'm going to turn to the TAs, but Chris, do you have the phone call still?
I do.
Okay, good. We're going to try to bring that. Chris, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Well, we can, sort of. Chris Martin is going to increase the volume. How about now? You want to say something now?
In the video discussion on the long dress, you discussed multiple meanings of the word current.
Yes, current.
Yes, and what I wanted to say was, in the long dress, you talked about current. What does current mean? Current
Right.
of water, air, electricity. Could she mean the current that runs the sewing machine?
Great.
Metapoetically, that could be the poem, the use of words.
Yes.
The current of electricity would also possibly be run by current of air or water.
Yep.
Could she mean currency as in money, or could she mean current as the current fashion, which all could be
Yes.
taken metapoetically as the poem, right?
Yes.
So
There's
she
one more.
also
There's
then-
one more.
Also then covered the topic of her comment on nouns,
Right.
And she was saying a noun is already named, so why use something that's already named?
Good.
So what I'm saying is that the word current, I believe, has all of those meanings. And just as you went back to your analogy of the mug,
Yes.
and I thought that a mug has two different noun meanings. It could be a mug, a drinking receptacle. It could be a mug, a face, like he's got an ugly mug.
Right.
Or it could be the verb to mug somebody, like I got mugged on the subway.
Yep.
So that's three different meanings that the word mug has. So that can be played with, and that could be, it has several different meanings. You could have, like I wrote something briefly, Hortense had an ugly mug, he drank from it, the spoils of a heinous act. So that has all three meanings of the word mug.
That's great.
Contained therein, just
Chris?
like the word current.
Yeah.
Very possibly have.
Yeah.
So was she indeed possibly contradicting herself
Yes.
when she made that statement about the noun?
So that you've asked, in essence, you've asked a really great question that I want to summarize, and I'm going to ask you to listen to our responses off the air so that we can get another phone call in and Chris can recover from having to hold the mic.
And I want to
Chris-
shamelessly plug for the Eavesdropping Collage Project, which is in general discussion, as well as there's a new one I have added called Hey Everybody, Let's Cut Up.
Right, I saw
Check it
Hey
out,
Everybody,
the
Let's Cut
general
Up.
discussion.
All right, great. Thank you
All
for
right.
promoting those two threads.
God bless you.
Thanks, Chris.
Yes.
All right.
All
So,
right.
great. So let me pose the question again, and I'm going to ask Jenny Lancaster if she herself would like to respond, and then I'm going to ask Allie, Amaris, and Anna also to respond. So here's the issue. We have a piece of a tender button called A Long Dress, and in it, among other things, there is the word current, which is a key word, and it's got multiple connotations. Chris did a great job of enumerating them, and there's one additional one, which is current as in present tense, right? The current. So it must be 5 or 6. So she's really leaning heavily on the way that noun works. Chris is correctly observing that she's brilliant in her use of the open-endedness of connotation. But at the same time, she rails, not at the same time, in a different part of her life, she rails against nouns. Why write nouns when they're all kind of been there, done that? Why, after a thing has been named, use a noun to write about it? This is, of course, exactly what the woman who's struggling with the naming of her baby is dealing with. What happens when you name something or person a name? Does that delimit them? Does that denote them? Does that make them an object? And what happens to their subjectivity? This is like a key issue in all of ModPo. So we have those two things, and it's perfectly okay for Stein to contradict herself in the Whitmanian tradition because she just did. But I'm curious to know what the reactions are, starting with Jenny here in the room. And you can pass and come back if you want. And then Allie, Amaris, and Anna. So here's Jenny.
Well, when I hear the word current, of course, I immediately go back to Emily Dickinson and some of the success in circuit lies in the current that's there.
Yes,
so,
Jenny, you get an A. We don't give A's. But.
Whereas, that current seemed to be circular and closed. The current of Stein, what strikes me most about her poetry is how unappreciated it was in her own time, but yet how much it was picked up by later poets, in particular, even in what you just posted, that interpretive dance done to her, If I Told Him, I forget the name of the poem, but the one on Pablo Picasso.
If I Told Him, Would He Like It? The completed portrait of Picasso.
So when I saw the poem connected to the dance, that to me spoke of a little bit of how her poetry is moving like a river current, right, through both various arts and various types of poetry throughout time. So to me, Stein's use of current has a motion to it that perhaps Emily's had also motion, but an insular motion, whereas her current is moving out towards where she was unappreciated in her own time, into the continuity of time, going forward.
That's great, Jenny. Thank you. And after we hear from Ali, Amaris, and Anna, can you keep the mic? I want to come back to you and talk about that dance a little more. So, Ali Castleman, what are your thoughts about Stein and her nouns? She uses current in a long dress, but she also decries nouns as being delimiting. No problem there, right?
The first thing that I kind of think of is just because she repeats, for example, current here so many times, it just kind of, yes, you have all of those options of what it could be connoting, but to me, a lot of what she's saying is really just, what is current? Like, what is current? And I like how that's kind of juxtaposed with what is the wind, what is it? Because it's hard to imagine something kind of more ethereal and less intangible in some sense.
Yeah.
And it all kind of comes full circle at the end with a line distinguishes it, a line just distinguishes it. Just, it makes me think of the phrase, like, it's a fine line. And so I think she's really just playing with just the kind of nature of language of sound and kind of like hitting the hammer.
Yeah.
And
since that's so well put, Ali, and since the poem is about a style, a kind of dress, a current fashion, a way of imagining beauty, the poem, and I know we said this in our original video way back, the poem has to be about how beauty gets made and how we revise beauty. And so this exploration is, as many people have suggested, and Chris too in asking the question, it's about the thing we are currently reading, as it were. It's about the thing she's writing. So Gowrie, back again to, she's writing about a long dress, but you know she's not really writing about a long dress. She's writing about a long dress and how it is that we determine that something is beautiful. That's great. Thank you, Ali. Amaris Kachansky, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I read current very metapoetically, I guess, and to go off of what Ali was just saying, she has several nouns in there that kind of have this intangible, ethereal, invisible value, right? Current, the wind, what makes it crackle. So to me, she's kind of questioning, interrogating what makes language come alive. And traditionally, language is a machinery that makes meaning in a very conventional way using grammar, syntax that's recognizable to all. But here she's mixing up syntax, clearly has fragments all over the place. So she's combining words to make meaning in a new way, changing the current fashion, as it were.
Yes.
And I was asked a question in my office hours about the colors of the second part of the poem, and where she says, only a white and red or black, only a yellow and green or blue, a pink or scarlet, a bow is every color. And my interpretation there was that she's really focused there on the juxtaposition of colors and how they form new hues. And to me, that was an analogy for what words can do in this poem. And the bow is every color, maybe in the sense that the poem is the form that takes on the color of the words that make it up. So she's really trying to, I guess, change the fashion of how meaning is made in language at the time that she's writing this.
Oh, we're killing this. I mean, I really think that this last 10 or 15 minutes, if we can bottle it, will be very instructive for people who are trying to understand why Stein writes the way they do. So let's go to Anna, and then we'll go back to Jenny. Bob will get to you in a sec. Anna Strong, hello, Anna.
Yeah, I guess I don't have too much to add to all of the brilliant things that have just been said, but I guess the only thing would be that to me, it's not that Stein is trying to mess up meaning in the same way that she's trying to mess up representation. I guess that's, for me, what makes her poem so powerful is that it's not the denotative thing that she's trying to mess with, it's the connotative. And that when you can break down those like kind of connotative relationships, so you can build yourself a whole new realm of meaning, a whole new realm of relation that gets built between words and gets built from like the adjacency of words, and not necessarily from the kind of baggage that gets accumulated through years and years and years of the same kind of poem.
I'm so glad you used the word relation, because there are readings of Tender Buttons, such as Karen Alanier's reading, a longtime ModPo person who's a Stein expert, which is that everything, the Tender Buttons is really a very erotic poem, and that it's about love, in the same way that John Ashbery's Some Trees, which is a poem we will talk about in week 7 of ModPo, is about relation in the way Anna just described it, the way language works, but also relation as in relationships. And in that regard, Karen, the very same Karen, has tweeted in response to this discussion we're having, Tender Buttons is a love poem, and Stein says we name our beloved. So in this work, nouns are important. Karen's brilliant because she dealt with the thing we're talking about now, but she also goes back to the baby naming issue, the issue of what happens when you seemingly determine a beloved with a name. And to that regard, William Boggs has tweeted just now, even apart from names, how do we predetermine a baby when we assign its gender? So clearly, the radicalism of Stein, or of Dickinson, or of all the ModPo poets, basically, lies in trying to keep from, and the images too, trying to keep language from doing all this predetermined work, imposing social meanings that are conventional, and allowing people who have to use the language to stop at a stop sign and not get run over, but still be able to resist and see the stop sign as a bunch of squiggles, as Dave put it, or to put it another way, to see Bruce when Bruce is 5 or 10 or 15 or 20, or raises his hand in a college class and isn't just another Bruce, but is in fact whoever he wants to be. That's really the topic here in ModPo when we get to, that's why Stein is such an important week. All right, so Jenny, would you say something more about the dance? You said it was revelatory for you. Maybe what I'll do is I will play a little of Stein. I'm not going to show the dance. And I'm doing something really 1.0 here, because we're going to do this sound.
Would he like it? Would Napoleon? Would Napoleon? Would he like it?
Chris?
If Napoleon, if I told him if Napoleon, would he like it if I told him? If I told him, if Napoleon? Would he like it if Napoleon, if I told him? If I told him if Napoleon, if I told him? If I told him, would he like it? Would he like it if I told him? Now, not now, and now. Now, exactly as kings, feeling full for it, exactitude as kings, so to beseech you as full as for.
There she is, Jenny. So what do you want to say about the dance and that embodied voice?
As far as I could tell, the dancers had created a movement for each word. And then as they moved, as Gertrude Stein spoke the words in different order and in a different position, they changed their position, and they changed the relationship of the movements to each other. There were two dancers. There was a male and a female dancer who were somewhat made to look like just the same person almost. They didn't have a costume on or anything. But they were moving so powerfully against each other, towards each other, inverted with each other, that you could, somehow the words came alive to me.
Yeah.
The words came alive.
There was denotation there. Did you guys look at the dance with your class?
No.
But are you, Lily, you're familiar with it?
Yeah.
There, can anybody, anywhere, online or in the room, remember one? So let's just stipulate that most of the translating they did was not denotative. It was a motion, an abstract translation into dance of words. But they were consistent, is what Jenny's saying. But there's one that's denotative. that actually points to the thing, the word in the poem. Does anybody know what it is? Jenny?
There was some kind of
It's Napoleon.
Oh, was it? Where were
How
they
did they
doing
do
I know, I don't remember. Oh, that.
Every time Napoleon, right? So there's a vocabulary. The dancers had a vocabulary, and Napoleon is historically referential, but nothing else really is, as far as I can tell. Maybe king, sort of later in it. Okay, so we're going to bring the mic up to Bob, but while it's coming and while Bob gets ready to say something,
We got some things.
and somebody else.
Yeah, we got some
Yeah.
things.
So let's hear some tweets and other things, and also I'll say 215-839-6616. Maybe people are timid about calling all the way out here to California. You know, toll calls and all that. No, there are no toll calls anymore. 215-839-6616. So let's the three of us just go back and forth, each do one, and we'll accumulate some. So Jake, you first, then me.
Oh, this is killer. This is from Kathy McCabe D. And this goes back to the person you quoted who said names of the beloved, which is sort of like a little bit of
Karen, yeah.
Yeah, the kind of biblical Song of Songs thing. So Kathy here says, would you say Stein is writing in the secular equivalent of the theological infinite now? That there is something omnipresent about it.
Mm-hmm. Wow, really good.
Yep.
My turn. It's a tweet from T in Manila. She quotes Stein. I began to discover the names of things. That is not to discover the names, but discover the things. That's almost something your therapist would say to you, although wouldn't use it in the first person, but you know what I'm saying? Here's the therapist to you. You should begin to discover the names of things. Not to discover the names, but to discover the things, which is to get beyond the naming. Lily?
Hakur Mar says, one challenge of modernism, the temptation of comforting, how not to be comforting. I like that.
That's very cool. Jake, you got another one?
I found Stein continuous present, a good description of the experience I have with ADHD, says James Price. We experience zero time, which is a flow that does not break. It is a strength in experience, but held to those around me.
That's great.
Powerful.
Therese Pope, whom we're going to see on Saturday, who's in this area. As a dancer, the dancer spot on choreographed to her words in perfect time. It's already difficult to choreograph to music, but I can't even imagine trying to choreograph to a spoken word. One more, Lil?
I like this tweet from Sophie, who earlier claimed she didn't get Stein, who says, almost feels like Stein's A Long Dress is a work of abstract painting. You can interpret it any way you feel like still makes sense.
Oh, that's really cool. All right, let me give some due honor to the subforum, then we're going to go to Bob with the question or comment from him. Let's see. Oh, Shirley Collins is saying that I need to move to the West Coast. Jim Lindstrom, who I haven't seen a lot in the forums. Maybe he's all over the place. I just haven't seen him, so I'm glad to see him here. Gertrude Stein had such a historic influence on modern poetry that everything she wrote and voiced grabs our attention, even if she's outside the realm of academic writers. That's really great. She really is important, isn't she? All right. Hi, Bob. How are you? Do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, okay, although I just first wanted to note that I was hearing on the radio coming here that today is National Poetry Day.
There we go.
And
perfect.
It's very appropriate we're having this.
It's National Poetry Day because ModPo has come to the Bay Area. What, Ann? Yes, that is that to a T.
We are inside a Stein
It's a
poem.
big coterie. Bob?
Yeah, what I was commenting there is it seems to me that there is sort of a unity as to what Stein is struggling with, some of the other poets are struggling with. It sort of goes back to, I mean, I think Emily Dickinson started with her talking about the world of possibilities. And one thing about the world of possibilities, and this I think overlaps a bit with what we now think of in terms of quantum theory, where in quantum theory you have a lot of superimposed states that are in a sense all possibilities. And they're not locked in a time. They're all kind of eternally present there until you make the observation, until you select something. Then that then everything crystallizes down into a single, in time and space, but it's also, it limits there. You've now picked one out of what may have been a multitude of possibilities and frozen it there.
Yeah.
And I think that was sort of a lot of the problem what Stein was struggling with. She was saying, well, what is a carafe? What am I? I mean, the same kind of question there. And she says, well, as soon as you put a name on it, a label on it, there you act like, oh, now I know what it is. A carafe is an object that you put fluid into there, with all the sexual connotation that may involve there. But it's like, she says, do you really know what a carafe is?
Right.
And then she's kind of, and she says, and she's bringing out she's playing around with a lot of words, saying, well, there's this, and there's this angle, and this shape, and this thing. You're kind of blind if you just resolve the noun, and they're kind of, she's constantly playing with the words and playing with images and playing with things, trying to kind of keep looking at something different way, but trying to keep the possibilities open as long as she can.
Bob, that was really stunning. Snaps for Bob. That was really. I want to take a piece of what you said. I want to get the mic back to Jenny, and thank you, Bob. I want to take a piece of what Bob said, and I want to ask TAs or my colleagues to my left and right, TAs in the Google Hangouts, just indicate with a wave of your hand that you want to say something about this. Rather than call on you, I'll just turn to somebody who wants to talk. Here's one thing that Bob said, among the many things he said that was just brilliant. Stein looks at a carafe and says, wait a minute, what's a carafe? Which is a very basic question because we're supposed to start by knowing things. Also says, who am I? It's a time-honored tradition of a question for poets and humans to ask. Those two things. I sense that Bob saw, and I agree with him, that the real radicalism was not asking that question, because that's a question we do ask traditionally, but to actually ask of the things that are established. There's a tender button on, it's called a table. I think we're doing it tomorrow, aren't we? We're doing a table tomorrow?
Long dress.
We're doing long dress, okay. There's one called a table. Oh, we're doing that Saturday at the Center for the Book. And a table in philosophy classes, Dave knows this, I think, traditionally, when the philosophy professor wants to refer to the settled, grounded truth, the reality, they say a cat is on the table or a cat is on the mat. Those are the two things they say. Table means the solid thing that is the particles of physics, the physical particles are dense enough so the thing is pretty solid, and if you leave it here tonight and you come back tomorrow, it's going to be here because it's a pretty solid thing. To ask what's a table, to have a tender button on the table is to say, I don't know if there is a ground.
Right.
So here's the question for anybody. How radical is it for Gertrude Stein to say that the harder question to ask is what is the carafe, what is the mug, what is the table? The question of who you are, which would be this question about what constitutes the subject, which is the Cartesian question in philosophy, is actually one that we are able to ask. The one we keep forgetting to ask is what are the things in the world? I find that to be revelatory and revolutionary. So I look to colleagues who either want to say more about that or say why they consider that, if they agree with Bob and me that that is such a radical thing to be doing. Jake, first thought?
So first thought, I guess, is, going back to what Bob said about the open possibility of the poem, the continuous open possibility of the poem. Just on this go, as we were talking about a long dress, and you were talking about the metapoetics of it, I almost felt the rustling of a dress. I had this very vivid image of a dress that is moving, maybe wind or something that is moving, and I almost didn't feel metapoetic at all. It felt like an encounter with an object, and I think, this is what she's doing. That every time you re-enter through a different channel or through different current, and you're passed through the poem with different imagery.
That it's not only in Star Trek episodes and other sci-fi that we can imagine a time when human beings can create objects with words. It's sort of like is that what they call it, 3D printing? What if language, this isn't that weird, is it? What if subjectivity was so powerful that our words could create things? I like that. Lily, do you have a thought on this? You look like you have a thought on this.
Yeah,
and
I
then
think
we're going to go to a phone call after one more from the Google Hangouts, I think.
I think in to answer the question, like how radical of an idea is it, I think it is radical in some ways and then not in others, because I think what we're saying when we talk about like resisting nouns and naming things is more like resisting objective definitions of things. But I think what Stein creates in Tender Buttons replaces those things with subjective definitions. And the idea is that like not necessarily like a Tristan Tzara type, anyone can create this definition by cutting up a newspaper and that's a poem and it will have some of you in it. It's like, this is what at the time of writing Tender Buttons, a long dress subjectively defined meant to Gertrude Stein. And so it's kind of replacing, I think of it as replacing objective definitions with subjective definitions, which is radical because the switch from objective to subjective is very radical, but at the same time it's still a definition, like sort of like what Chris /Grass's question was about, isn't she contradicting herself? It's like, right, to carry out this experimental project to its logical end, we would just have like crazy static noise that was unlistenable.
And she also felt, and you're somewhat circling around this.
And then she believed in this singular genius of herself that she would create.
And she thought of herself that she was the one capable of pulling this off. And what's going to happen in ModPo, in the story of the development of poetry from modern to postmodern and modern to contemporary, is that a stronger democratic and multivocal sense, the sense of multiple perspectives, not just as a matter of a cubist theory, but actually as a practice, opens up the poem even wider. Stein is important to that, but she herself would not have tolerated such a thing. And that's really what you're saying. Okay, anyone in the Google Hangouts, wave to me if you've got a thought on this topic. Erica Kaufman, please.
I just want to say that I agree with all of you. I think that it is one of the amazingly radical things about Stein, where what she's doing is asking you to, instead of, considering questions of subjectivity, she's asking you to rethink the things that you think are already known. And it reminds me of what she writes in Composition as Explanation, where she talks about how nothing changes from generation to generation except the composition. So what that makes me think about is the fact that what Stein is really asking us to do is to acknowledge that it's not only the subject that changes and evolves, but everything around us is always in motion.
Yeah.
And it's really important to open oneself up to that possibility.
That's great. Thank you, Erica. I want to just quote Chris Foreman, who's in LA and was supposed to come and join us, but wasn't able at the last minute, has tweeted a quote from T.S. Eliot that works well here. And then we're going to go to the phone, Chris Martin. Okay, here's the quote from Chris from T.S. Eliot. "And I have known the eyes already, known them all, the eyes that fix you in a formulated phrase." T.S. Eliot. Thank you, Chris Foreman. So who do we have on the phone? Chris Martin.
Hey, Al. This is Sophia calling from Wine Country, California.
Sophia Pandea.
Give me 1 second.
Okay. He's twirling knobs. I really envy that he knows what he's doing when maybe he's faking it.
Those are Tender Buttons.
Zach, does he fake it when he's sometimes...
Hey, Sophia.
Sophia, can you hear me?
Hey.
Hi.
Yes, I can hear you.
Wow, it's
Hi.
amazing. We're going to see you on Saturday, aren't we?
We are indeed.
Oh,
I'm
great.
excited.
I'm excited. I don't think we've ever met. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so we'll see each other Saturday. That'll be fun. And you're in Wine Country, so you are... Which is it? Sonoma?
It's 10 minutes from Sonoma. It's a tiny village That's associated with Jack London, actually.
Oh, we talked about this a few years ago.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So I guess wine is a little cheaper there than it would be in Philadelphia?
I don't know about that. Lots of pricey wine tasting places here.
Well, there's a whole room full of Bay Area people who are moaning and sighing, and I guess apparently I can get a cheaper bottle of California wine in Philly. Lily, does that make you want to go back to Philly? You like it out here.
Less of a wine drinker.
The weather is much better here.
Yeah. Well, I'll bring cash to the Center for the Book if you bring a nice bottle of wine, and I'll buy it from you.
Oh, how lovely. Well, I'll definitely do that. I'll bring something local.
Oh, that would be really nice. I'm serious. I will have cash. How
much?
I'll pay for the gas as well. Anyway, do you have a comment? You're a poet, and you must. I've never talked to you about Stein. What do you think about Stein?
I adore Stein, especially because the way she just makes language open-ended, and everything suddenly becomes from fixed to unmoored somehow, you know.
Yeah.
And also, right now I was just rereading her, and I was struck by this line: "The sudden spoon is the wound in the decision," and it seems to be so beautiful because spoon and wound, and in the decision seems like indecision, and there's also incision in there. All these implications and this open-ended, how should I say, current in her work, it's thrilling. So I just wanted you to maybe comment on that.
Yeah.
I don't really have a question. I'm just
Okay.
I'm
Great.
just enthralled. Stein's very exciting to me. I know some people
Great.
find it difficult, but
Would you be willing?
it seems to be suddenly everything's with Stein, the rug is pulled from under you.
Yeah.
You know, suddenly everything's open.
Yeah. Would you be willing to stay on the line? Chris can be relieved of holding the mic for a second, but I'll come back to you after you listen to some of the comments here. Does that sound good?
Yes, that sounds wonderful.
Okay, great. So I want to focus the question and also open it wide. And Jenny, are you ready to bring the mic around to various people? I really want to take a survey of the room here, and I want the TAs and I to take a back seat to this because we've lived with Stein a long time, and some of you have too. I don't mean to suggest otherwise, but some of you are new to Stein. So you like the course. Week 1, Whitman Dickinson. Week 2, the Whitmanians and Dickinsonians. What fun. I mean, they're really terrific. Those poets are terrific. And I'm not going to say they're not challenging or experimental. Some of them are, but, you know, it follows. Week 3, Imagism and Williams, early Williams, wheelbarrow poems. It's all very cool, and you're patting yourselves on the back for having entered modernism without being afraid. But now Stein. And this is where, in previous years, the number of participants in ModPo goes way down. Mm-hmm. This year, I'm pleased to say that the participation rate, what's called active learners, the stat that I get is over 50% of those totally enrolled. And the number has not fallen much. It will fall because people get busy and they stop being active. And ModPo's open all year, and it will be open, and you can come back. And a lot of people know that, so I'm not upset when people fall away because life gets in the way, people get ill, etc. But the number of people that have stayed is persistent in week 4, even though it's Stein. And then one other observation, and that is that the howling against Stein, the resistance to Stein, which in previous years in ModPo, especially at the very beginning, was huge. There were whole threads and forums set up to run Stein out of town, seriously. People with, torches and citizens lists and things. But maybe we've simply mollified everybody. Maybe the Kool-Aid has been drunk. But something about the atmosphere of collegiality, because I know there's some people in this room who are not big fans of Stein, but somehow people are willing to try this non-narrative, out of order, and sometimes seemingly nonsensical work. So I'd love for Jenny to go around and get just brief takes. Is it super weird for you, but you're trying? Is it revelatory? You now understand, you know, the way language works. Where are we? So can we go to Andy all the way up in the front here? Sorry, Andy. Give us a quick, we can't take too long in this because I want to get a lot of reaction.
Yeah,
but
well,
how are you doing with Stein?
I took the course a couple of years ago, but what was really exciting is that we had a group of people who came together once a week to talk about this. Allie actually dropped in. Hi, Allie.
In New York?
In San Francisco.
Oh, Allie was in San Francisco
Right.
that year, wasn't she? Allie, is that
Yes,
case?
that's
You
right.
remember Andy? That's cool.
Maybe I didn't have a beard then, but what was interesting, we had many
Beard
different
looks great,
backgrounds.
by the way. Go with the
and-
beard.
Right. And, you know, a lot of different perspectives, and as we came into Stein, myself and Mary, who's not here today, she's a lawyer. I have background more in literature, and I love the sense of nonsense, the sense of not meaning anything. She wanted things to make sense. And we came to Stein, and it really, where I felt things were very funny, she felt that it made her angry. And then she thought about her experience with making up stories with her 5-year-old daughter, and suddenly got the sense that things don't have to make sense. And, you know, both of us kind of made this breakthrough, not so much about what Stein was doing, but what we were experiencing when we read
That's
Stein.
great.
And somehow it was a letting go, and I think for both of us, it really moved us forward.
Oh, that's great, Andy. Thank you for saying that. Who else would like to say something? Can we go back there, Jenny? I guess to what Andy's saying in part is that our utilitarian use of language, which we do in our jobs, right? When we instruct people and communicate with people, when we get things done, takes so much of the joy, the pure joy, out of mouthing words, out of just doing the physical, you know, the sudden spoon is a wound in the decision. Well, what the fuck does that mean? Well, I don't know. We can probably find out if we work hard enough at it, and we should. But at the same time, it's just joyous that anybody could let herself do that. Yes. I can't see your name, and I've forgotten it.
Jennifer Pryor.
Jen, right. Jen Pryor, yeah. Hi.
I mean, I actually don't know that we can ever know what the wound is, the sudden spoon is the wound in the decision. I don't know that we will ever know exactly what that means, but I wanted to say that something that I think is really important that you said at the start of one of your video discussions is how important it is to lean into the discomfort of an unapproachable poem, a poem that you don't think there's any way to find meaning out of. And last year I did find myself getting a little angry with Stein, and even not necessarily disagreeing, but having some of the discussion not resonate with me in the interpretations of some of the tender buttons. But every once in a while something would resonate with me, or I would find something in the poem that was not necessarily touched upon in the discussion. And that mattered to me, and I could sort of lean into that discomfort and discover something about myself in the poem. And that was really cool.
You're going to make me cry. That's so great, because, I mean, think about what, from the point of view of a teacher, we're going to come up here to Anne. From the point of view of a teacher, to hear a fellow citizen, a colleague in the world, think that a poetry class would be a place where you would learn to live with not knowing, with discomfort, which would be, you know, that would be the place, you know, the course on the Middle East crisis.
Yeah.
Right? The course on the unfulfilled promise of the American Constitution. You know, that would be that's where you say we need to really get used to being uncomfortable with, you know, in some way, in some cases, our privilege, in some cases our inability to access privilege, and then or in the Middle East question and in the unfulfilled Constitution question, both. But isn't it amazing that there's nothing wrong with that? But here, where there's really not much at stake, let's face it. We have people who are devoted, who have jobs, who have professions, who have families, who are devoted 5 years later to just pressing on with this question and bringing friends along and saying, look, you're going to be ripping your hair out. That's why you need to do it. I love that. Thank you for saying that. Anne,
what helped
you
me?
struggled with Stein.
Yeah, I really did.
I read all of your threads.
Oh, that's scary.
I read all of your threads. You're struggling.
Actually, at this point, what has helped me more than anything else is all the different ways that you have, bringing in the different speakers, the different things people have written about Stein, the different types of things she's written over time. All of that has built up all these different facets of her as a writer and a person, and that's helped me more than anything else. So I think a lot of it's the structure of the class.
Oh, thank you.
Because I met her 40 years ago, and like I said in one of my posts, it didn't go well. Now I'm just feeling
who?
Gertrude Stein.
No, she died in 1946.
No. That's not what I mean.
Oh, you encountered her.
I encountered her. Oh, come on.
No, it's just, I don't even know
I knew
where
what
my
you
head
meant.
was going. Lily is a regular, kind person who didn't. There is a poet by the name of Naomi Raplansky with an R. Naomi Raplansky. She's 98, and she's coming to the Writers' House on November. I can't remember the day. I'll send the word out, and we're doing a live, webcast of it. And she met Gertrude Stein.
Cool.
In 1934 as a young girl. Anne, I cut you off, I think. You said you met Stein, you encountered Stein.
I encountered Stein in college.
Yeah.
And I think I just read From Tender Buttons.
Right.
And I think that was just one dimension, and it wasn't the right dimension for me.
Yeah.
And I just think all the different dimensions, the ways that she's presented to us through this course, I think that may be part of the reason you're not dropping off. Have you added any material?
We've added a lot in ModPo Plus, and we have added 3 or 4 actually in the main syllabus we've added a bunch of little videos that help explain things.
Yeah, I think those have really helped.
One by Erica Kaufman. It's like I think Erica, it's a little clip of 1 minute where you're explaining something from you're explaining all this and not ordinary, not unordered and not resembling, I think. And I found that very helpful. That's
and
nice.
there's a
We've
comment,
added new stuff.
And there's a comment by Bob Perlman and Ron Silliman.
And Rachel Blau Duplessis.
And Rachel. There's just all of this
Maybe
ways
that's
to...
it.
You're painting a portrait of her with all these different perspectives.
Okay, so
and that
here-
helped me.
So we're going to go back to Sophia. I'm sorry, Bob. We're going to go back to Sophia, who's still on the phone. And then, because we've kept you from your homes a long time, and we usually go about an hour and a half, and we'll go a little over that. What I'm going to do is we're going to do a form of final words. But I just wanted to say something in response to this first. And Sophia, you want to get Sophia teed up again? We're going to turn to you, Sophia. I just wanted to say that what I've discovered about this course in 5 years is that every time we have a webcast, immediately some staff people back home in Philly they outline it, and then they create video clips from it of 3, 4, and 5 minutes in duration, in which the ModPo people particularly get to weigh in. That then becomes part of the course, so that the process of building this course, and Coursera has tolerated this is the only course with these giant course resource pages, ModPo Plus, Teacher Resource Center, the CCCR, the Collaborative Community Collaborative Close Readings page. This is the only MOOC that isn't like fly through it and be gone to another level, to another course. Nothing wrong with that. So this is more of a site and a community, and we are adding to it. And maybe one of the reasons why Stein is easier is that people who are stuck can find other people like them, not teachers speaking from on high, but other people like them working through it. So I'm glad to hear that observation. And long live the idea of a not one-off engagement with the world of people who want to be. And there are people in this room who've been with us for 5 years. Sophia Pandea, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
What did you think of all that talk?
Amazing. It seems to me that, that ModPo, the format, the structure of ModPo, it's in a metapoetic way. It's like Stein, because all these multiple perspectives, it's loving every time it's repeating it in a different way, in a different perspective.
Yeah.
I'm amazed at how perfectly this format is reflective of Stein in a way. Do you agree?
Yeah. ModPo is Steinian. I want to say, I want to make an even greater claim, which is that we praise at the very beginning of this course a Dickinson poem in which Dickinson does what she says. She actually does. The brain within its groove runs evenly and true, but let her splinters swerve 'twere easier for you to put a current back when floods have slit the hills and scooped a turnpike for themselves and trodden out the mills. That is a poem which trods out, wildly runs like a flood and can't be stopped. Yeah. And so we praise that for being a thing in which the form of the poem is actually doing what the message is. Yeah. And woe to us, we live in a world in which most people just convey meaning but actually don't talk the talk. I'm reversing the walk the walk, talk the... They should talk the talk and do what they say. So that if you're disoriented, your language should be disoriented. If you're in grief because of something that's cut short, you should cut short. Right? That kind of... Yeah. So ModPo overall is trying to be that crazy, iterative, multivocal thing that we're praising in the poems. And that's how... This is why Erica Kaufman, who's got better things to do with her time, or not better things to do, but like she's busy, is interested in this whole project, because this is what, in a way, she, and I'm sure Jake agrees, I know Jake agrees, feel that American education could be like. So, Sophia, I'm going to see you Saturday. We all are. Can't wait for the wine. I'm going to bring an opener, a bottle opener. Thank you for calling. We'll see you soon. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go around and we're going to get final words from the TAs and from us, and then some thanks. So really anything on anything we've said, make it brief. Erica, I know we've just been talking about your favorite topic, so I'll let you start. And then we'll go to Dave, then Anna, then Amaris, then Allie. Then we'll go to Jake and Lily, and then I'll wrap up. So, Erica?
I would just say it's interesting. Today I was in a meeting at work, and we were talking about American education and technology, and I found myself talking about ModPo and how the amount that I learn purely through just, being here is unbelievable. And I feel like, as you said, Al, it represents a really exciting and positive experiential trend in the way that we think about learning.
Yeah.
As being intergenerational, hybrid, etc.
Can we say more words? Intergenerational, hybrid. Teacher decentered.
Teacher decentered, active, differentiated, radical.
Radical. Maybe not bounded by four walls in a room. I've always had trouble with that one. Yeah. Maybe taught in proximity to food.
Involving Gertrude Stein.
Oh, involving Gertrude Stein. Thank you, Erica. Thank you for just being with us. It's so great, always.
Thank you for having me, always.
I have brought with me this book. Oh, look, Zach's got he's not even there, but are you managing this remotely? Wow. This is Erica Kaufman's instant classic. I brought it with me across the country. And I'm going to give it to the second person in this audience who spoke. Who was the second person who spoke? I think it might have been Jenny? Gowrie? It was Gowrie. Gowrie, Erica. Erica Gowrie. Erica's book, Instant Classic. I'm going to give it to you. Okay, usually I give it away to people who are remote, but here we're going to... Is that cool? Okay, great. Thank you, Erica. Dave Poplar, final thoughts?
I just wanted to repeat a little bit what Jenny said a little while ago about that video. If you Google it, it's called Shutters Shut, but it's also on the syllabus, and that really made things click for me. For all the reasons that Jenny said before, it just blows me away, because each movement really does represent a specific word, and then when you see it performed, it's as if you're seeing writing taking place, and it's sort of mind-blowing that this is language, this is communication, and you've never seen it this way. I didn't realize it could do this. I don't realize what it actually is. It just is mind-blowing, like I said, and that really helped me sort of understand what she was trying to do. It was behind what she was trying to do. So I think everybody should watch that about 50 or 60 times like I have.
That's great, 50 or 60. Fantastic. Great, Dave, thank you very much. Anna Strong, we miss seeing you, but there you are. Hey.
I guess I'll just say quickly that Stein has been sort of especially potent for me this week, because in my class that I teach on Tuesday this week, we spent the whole class talking about the ways in which that things like space, like the city space, public space, and institutions can really sort of circumscribe and define and denote things like sexuality and gender, and the ways in which those things all, and race, and the way that all those things intersect. And we spent the whole class kind of like unpacking like how that happens and what that means. And by the end of class, I asked my students if they could just come up with a definition of gender, and they simply couldn't. And that was a really, really powerful moment for me, because it meant that in this process of stripping away all of the kind of institutional baggage that comes along with terms like those, you actually fail to have a simple definition. And I say up with non-simple definitions.
Yeah.
And up with complication, and up with new ways of looking at the world in a way that's going to bring the margins forward.
Right.
So I didn't bring in Stein to that particular classroom, because that would have been too much, probably.
But the connection is very clear, given these final words. And, I mean, this way of using language is still by far the predominant way that we all use language. So the degree to which we simply mouth words that are fun, or start to talk about things, big words like gender or liberty. If this is gender, what is it? If this is liberty, what is it? Let's reserve our energies for doing the hard things with language. Stein famously said, and John Ashbery said it of her, she wasn't really interested in writing what could be written. Right. That can already be done. Why do something that can already be done? She was interested in trying to write things that couldn't be written. And it seems to me that, it seems to all of us, we're saying, is that when human beings get to a point in the development of our language that we start focusing on the things that are hard to say, we make steps forward. And that's what Anna's saying, and it's just gratifying that there's a teacher there, in this case at Temple University, who's having those kinds of discussions with her class, and that Gertrude Stein is somewhere in the back of that. Amaris Kachansky, also a teacher. Hello, Amaris. Final thoughts?
Yeah, I guess for people who are struggling with Stein still, I know that what was really helpful for me in the beginning with appreciating her was maybe to take a step back from, intellectualizing and analyzing, and just kind of go off with what Dave said and listen to her, listen to the Jackson McLough recording, listen to her read If I Told Him. I think you'll find yourself soon smiling at all the repetition of the sounds internal to the words, and just really appreciating and taking simple pleasure in just how much she plays with language and the joy she takes in it, and it's contagious. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you, Amaris. Great to see you. Allie Castleman, final thoughts.
I just want to shout out Robert Haas in his poem Meditation at Lagunitas,
The
which
former poet laureate.
is pretty close to you guys, I think.
Yes, he's here. He's up at in Berkeley, I think.
Yeah. Just the line, this is one of my favorite poems, and the line, "A word is elegy to what it signifies,"
Yeah.
I think is so just in a similar brain space as Stein seems to always occupy. So I would just point people to that poem. It'll be a good
A word is
40
elegy
seconds
to
of
what
your
it
day.
signifies. A word creates a presence of from an absence. And if it's Stein, continuous present, it's always present. This is the Sid Corman thing about wanting you to be detained by him. Lily Applebaum, final thought. Thank you for coming all the way out here. We've got more things to do.
Yeah, I'm
We
excited.
didn't tell people what we're doing Saturday before the meetup. Do you want to say?
We're going to film a couple of on-location new videos for ModPo Plus. Thinking
Two poems, the two poets. I can help you with this.
we're doing some poems by Bob Kaufman
Mhm.
and also Ruth Weiss.
Ruth Weiss, who's a little-known woman beat.
Right. Quotes deeply appreciated. And so, yeah, we're going to be filming in San Francisco. And I think the plan is to kind of walk around and give some of the physical atmosphere to our
Yeah.
conversation, kind of contextualize our poets who have, were based here or have
Yeah.
some kind of like a basis
Both of
here.
them connected
Yeah.
here. We're actually going to go to Bob Kaufman Lane. Or
Right, right.
and we'll do a walk and talk, which I learned from the West Wing.
Yeah.
And that should be
You don't
hard.
have to like Aaron Sorkin to enjoy the videos.
No, and this will be, in fact, the first series of videos of their kind. You know, outdoors, filmed as we're walking. Could be very weird.
Yeah, they'll be fun.
Anyway.
What I want to say about Gertrude Stein is I think that as we were mentioning, this is a week where people confront what, how much they're kind of interested in or curious about letting go of like sense making and narrative in poetry. But I think as well, it tends to be a place where people, actually Jake and I were just talking about this. Seems like maybe in his class tomorrow, we're going to encounter some students who are kind of yearning for more traditionally rhymed poems. And I'm interested in how Stein actually, same as like making us think differently about denotative language and narrative, also I think makes me think differently about what I look for in a poem in terms of rhyme and rhythm. And so I think that's what the dance clip that we've been talking about a bit really foregrounds for me is it's a way to make the rhythm of the poem actually physically legible because you can see the dancers as they're embodying the motions. What they're dancing to is the rhythm of Stein's reading and the rhythm that's embedded in the poem. And so I think when we think of like nursery rhymes or things that we find that like we think of as pleasing to listen to, maybe Stein wouldn't be up on your list, but if you like read it out loud and listen to what she's saying, it kind of makes you think differently about like, well, why do I like a poem that rhymes, or why do I like a poem with a certain rhythm, and can I learn to find those same positive qualities in something that's less conventional? So that's what I like about Stein Week.
Yeah, and the way that the If I Told Him ends is like so ridiculously rhythmic.
Yeah, it's very rhythmic.
Oh my goodness.
There was there, whether and in there, as even say so. One I land, two I land, three the land, three the land, three the land, two I land, two I land, one I land, two I land, as a so. They cannot a note, they cannot afloat,
can
they
dance to it.
cannot, they dope, they cannot, they as denote. Miracles play fairly well, as well as, or as presently. Let me recite what history teaches.
There's your point, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to say something again about that? Because it's worth driving home.
Right. So I think like someone who thinks that likes the things about poetry that we're maybe in this course saying are more conventional or less useful to tell the story of this like fragmented capital M modern life. Like you can find those things in modern poetry, but they don't look the same. So like maybe what you like about the way a nursery rhyme sounds is something about the rhythm and you enjoy the rhythm of it and the rhyming. Like when you really think about it, why do we enjoy rhymed poems or poems with a certain rhythm? And it's the same question as like, why do we obsess over naming things? So I see those questions as related, and I see Stein's poetry like bringing those both up.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And Eves is taking notes, so she's ready for tomorrow when the naysayers say, we want rhyming and rhythmic poetry, Mr. Marmer. Jake, final thought?
Yeah, I want to go back to Kathy McCabe-D's comment, which really just struck me. Stein is writing secular equivalent of the theological infinite now. And the reason that I want to say this is a secular equivalent, it's such a powerful way of putting it. I think that for me, learning to read this kind of poetry has become a ritual of I guess almost spiritual power. I wouldn't even call it secular. This is where the line, this is merely a line, that separates, spiritual from secular. This is as ritualistic as it's going to get. That kind of poetry, immersing yourself into it, preparing yourself for it, and the thing that comes as a result of reading it together with other people.
It's great. Thank you, Jake. My final thought is very quick. I just want to shout out to Robin Cohn, who posted something to Twitter. So she quotes Dave Poplar in his stop sign thing that he did, that little riff. Squiggly lines, possible currents, possible interpretations. And she attaches to that an image of Hurricane Matthew. You see, Robin Cohn lives in West Palm Beach, Florida. I've known Robin through ModPo for a while, but I didn't know she was in West Palm. And the reason I know that she's in West Palm Beach now is because I am traveling to West Palm Beach, Florida, on October 22nd, and we'll be doing a meetup down there. I've never done one. This is the third far-flung meetup for me of the session. And the reason I'm going is because my very elderly parents, Sam and Lois, Sam, who got me into poetry, and Lois, who was a teacher for many years, obviously very important people in my life, and they're down there, and I'm going to be visiting them and doing. But there is the squiggly lines of Matthew, all the possible courses this thing might take. And for Anthony Watkins and Robin Cohn and 6 or 7 other ModPo people and my parents, let's hope the squiggly lines, let's hope there's a stop sign that Hurricane Matthew stops. One quick announcement, and then I'm just going to thank people by name. You have a meetup, too, that you're organizing. Jake, yes?
Yeah, we don't have it yet, but given number of people here in the room, if there is interest in doing a meetup, a few people were in touch with me already over email, but if you haven't been and you want to do a local meetup, let's talk right after this.
So Jake will stay. He's here in Palo Alto. He's a teacher. And I also hope that everybody in ModPo Googles Jake Marmer, M-A-R-M-E-R, and you will find including his students. Do you know the work that he does, the art? Have you performed for them?
Not for this classroom, but once in school we did something.
I mean, he does. I may be wrong. I always say klezmer improvisation poetry, klezmer-ish. It's amazing to watch him perform. He's just totally amazing. So, Lily, thank you for this and for coming all the way.
My pleasure.
Lily Applebaum, how about that?
Thank you.
Isn't she great? And Jake Marmer, who didn't have to travel very far, but is just such a wonderful addition to ModPo this year. Thank you. Erica Kaufman, Dave Poplar, Anna Strong, Allie Castleman, and I think Amaris had to leave early. Thank you all. All of us back at Home Base Writers House love you all, and I'm one of them who loves you all. Appreciate just being with you over the years. And Chris Martin and Zach Hardner did the impossible. They schlepped 150 pounds of equipment. They're chugging caffeine over there It is not easy to set this up. They've been at this for hours. It's hard enough back at the writer's house. That what they did, including somehow getting the phone calls in, holding my, I mean, 2 cameras, and pretty high quality video, it looks like. So can we all, those of you who are far flung, whose applause we won't hear, and those in the room, please take a minute to thank these 2 amazing people for doing something that is so complicated. Thank you, guys. How did you think it went? Did you technically okay? Close call? He's saying, this is Chris Martin to a T, right? Yeah. He's sweating bullets over there. Yeah, close call, but it worked out. The audio is very difficult. Thanks to everyone here in the audience who came from, some people came pretty far. Thank you so much for coming. Just lovely to see you. I hope some of you will be joining us on Saturday. So we are back in Philadelphia a week from today. Next week, Wednesday, is Yom Kippur. So some of us, it's a major, major day, and we won't be doing, and I fast, and just, I don't know. So we're not doing a webcast next Wednesday, but we will be doing one on Thursday, and I believe it's at 10 a.m.
I think that's right.
10 a.m. Eastern Time, Thursday.
7 a.m.
7 a.m. here. What's the problem?
I'll do it.
You'll do it. You're not even at school yet. Anyway, thank you all for coming, and thanks to all the people who called in and all the people who posted in. We will see you soon.
Thanks, Al.
Yeah. Woo.